Good day, everybody. So we're back, and this is going to be the prologue of the work that we're going to share with you in the days ahead. I'm a storyteller. I grew up with stories as a little girl, with my father being a lover of poetry and Persian literature. And I want to share with you how my journey started from childhood today, and also through my experience as a physician that has me before you at this moment of time in our history, wanting to communicate with you three truths. So how is it as a physician I'm here today? I'm going to share that story with you. The three truths that I want to share with you is that we are all connected. Every one of us has power to heal and manifest the world that we want to see, and that our health is the foundation for our ability to do that. So again, we're all connected. Every one of us has the power to heal ourselves and manifest the world that we want to see through our own healing. And our health journey is the beginning of that journey. And so with the videos that are going to be coming up ahead in the days and months, hopefully you will be able to experience and feel the impact of these three truths. So let me share with you how my story began when I was 7 years old, and my family and I moved from Iran to Canada in the late 70s. My mom was in her mid-40s and was basically a seamstress in Iran. And my father was a teacher. And myself and my brother and sister came here with very little money and really, really tough early life settling in Canada as new immigrants. My dad is a lover of poetry, and we grew up pretty much every day being surrounded by the beautiful writings of Hafez, Rumi, Sadi, Omar Khayyam. And if any of you have read or listened to Persian poetry, you know that the poetry is all about the mystical, about the life that we can all experience, about beauty, about love between man and woman, about love of humanity, about peace, about unity. And that was what I grew up with experiencing from my father's side. My mom is more of a practical person, is a taskmaster, is very, very hardworking. Although she has a grade 3 education, she's also a genius. And she was the one who was going to work, 17 hours a day, sleeping barely 3 or 4 hours a night. And was going to do everything in her power to make sure that as new immigrants to Canada, her children, her family were going to be okay. So I grew up in this blend of my father, who was about the mystical, about the world of poetry, about literature, and I would say the more esoteric things about life, the more spiritual aspect of life, and my mom, who was the practical, the doer, that make sure that we survive. Also very, very spiritual, connected to the divine, but more of the day-to-day grind. And sure enough, just like our society right now outside reveals, our economic, our material well-being has overrun our spiritual and our the more feminine aspect of our well-being. That's what we're experiencing outside right now. And that was what I experienced growing up as well. That energy of my mother was dominant. And so I grew up pretty much with the demands of most immigrant children. I was expected to be perfect. I was expected to be hardworking. My dad's time of relaxation or letting go or sleeping and, playing, having fun were considered as lazy. I was expected to do very well in school. Very, very high expectations as a typical immigrant from Iran or from many parts of the world that are coming to North America. And so I was a perfectionist. I was a type A, and I didn't even really know it, because from the time that I came here, grade 3, I was succeeding. I was always top of my class. I was always the one who won the awards. I was always the one who got hundreds. And I went through high school, the top of my high school, with lots of awards, scholarships to many different universities. And that way of life had shown me that I was successful, and the world was, acknowledging that success. And so it was working for me. I didn't realize that it wasn't really working for me until med school. So I got into med school with, I had the choice of any med school that I wanted to go. And I was doing quite well at U of T med school. And halfway through, I had my first bout of serious depression, where I sought out to, help myself, and got the help of a physician and a counselor, and was put on medication, but was really, really struggling, and almost left med school a number of times because it was very, very difficult. Although I was very committed to being a physician, I had decided from a very young age that I wanted to, and I think this came a lot from my mom's side, that I had the pressure of making the world a better place, that I had the pressure of being perfect, and would suffer in order to do my part to make the world a better place. And being a physician, although I've always been interested in the arts and have gravitated towards everything artistic, I was also really, really good in school and really great at the sciences. And so being a physician and wanting to help humanity seemed like the natural fit. So this was a really tough time, and I finished med school quite well, one of the top in my class. And as the type A go-get-em overachiever that I was, within 6 months of finishing my residency in family practice in Toronto, 20 years ago this month, I opened up a practice with my brother, and started seeing patients full-time, running a practice. And within a year, I had my first child, my daughter, and it was hell. So it was long, long days. It was having a newborn. It was having a very, very demanding practice where, I was seeing majority ethnic women, because I was an ethnic woman, 40, 50 patients a day. And I was exhausted. By the end of the day, I was, having coffee, having muffins. And although I had always been pretty healthy and I had been pretty fit, I really had no idea. Now I look back, I had no idea of how to live a balanced life, because I had not been taught to do it, and because our society doesn't promote what that balance is, and actually celebrates and acknowledges the perfectionist tendencies in our characters, the overachievers of type A. And I had always been awarded for being imbalanced, from my feminine male energy. If my dad represented the feminine energy, it's not about male or female, the feminine energy. My mom represented the male energy, the ones about material security. The feminine energy is about all that makes life really worth living, right? So you need both. You need the security, the material parts of life, but we also live because of what's the esoteric parts of life, the spiritual aspects of life, which is beauty, which is music, which is dancing, which is art, which is, communion. And not to say that my mother didn't have that and my dad didn't have that, but the dominance in my family was in this way. And so I had grown up with the dominant of that male energy, that go get 'em, achieve, and had completely disconnected from my other aspect, that feminine energy. And the world had applauded me for it. I had succeeded in the world's eyes for it. Until that second year, after I opened up my practice and my daughter was now, 6 months to almost a year, I just was not able to, I wasn't feeling well. I was quite stressed out with running a practice, small child, managing a now business, right? We're not taught how to run practices, seeing patients. And so I realized that the medication that I was on and the help that I was getting from my family doctor, from my physician, wasn't really helping. So I thought I'd go and get some personal training around from my office. And about 10 to 12 sessions after the personal training, I was already feeling 30% better. I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest pill. And although I had been, on the swim team, I had ran, I danced, I did aerobics, I had never actually done weight training before. And so I was just like, oh my God, like this is the pill that I want to take. So I did another, set of sessions with the personal trainer, and $5,000 later, I was around 30 at this time. I was like, wow, this is what I want to give. This is the pill I want to give to my patients. Like, how could I give this pill to my patients? Like, my energy was better, my mood was better, my stress levels. I was able to manage the stress of being. Nothing had changed in my outside world. I was though feeling better. So I decided to. And at that time, that first year of practice, I was actually ready to quit. Right before this, experience with the personal trainer, I was actually ready to quit medicine and my practice because it was just too much. And my husband at the time was like, no, please don't. We have $80,000 in debt. Don't quit medicine right now. That was my medical school debt. But I was really ready to quit because I was just like, I was seeing also in my patients, they were coming in with, back pain, anxiety, insomnia, low energy, low mood. And all I had been taught was to just write prescription after prescription for what I saw in my ethnic women population were really lifestyle-based sources of illness, sources of symptoms. So once I did the work with the personal trainer, I was like, I'm going to stay, but this is the medicine that I want to learn and I want to give to my patients. And so I did a self-funded pilot study in the back of my office at the time, where I hired a personal trainer, and for only like $40 for a 10-week exercise prescription program, I had patients in my practice and in my brother's practice, he's a rehab specialist, go through our exercise prescription program, and I couldn't believe the results that we saw. So these were like crazy results. So, I saw a woman in her 70s who had been on medication for her knee pain, was seeing my brother for injections of cortisone into her knee. She was on blood pressure medication, and she came and did the exercise prescription program, and her pills for her anti-inflammatory pills were reduced in half. And she repeated the exercise prescription program a second time. And the second time that she repeated, so it was like a 10-week program, the second week that she repeated the program, her blood pressure had started to drop. And so her blood pressure was reduced, and her pain was reduced, and her medication for her pain was reduced with just this exercise intervention. She donated around $300 to our program at that time. And she said to me, I'm donating this because I believe in this, and I'm going to send, the energy that this continues and you're able to help more people. And that kind of started off our journey. And I was seeing results really on conditions that I had never been taught. So I saw improvements in people's sleep. I saw improvements in a woman who was with us, who was my own patient. I had CAS involved with her child at that time, who, because of her the woman's behavioral mental health issues, her mental health symptoms and her behavior with her children started to improve, so that CAS, after the exercise prescription she had gone through again a couple of times, came and said to me, just this exercise intervention is helping her be a better parent. I saw people's skin conditions improve. I saw people's asthma improve. And so I was just like, oh my God, this is incredible. And the program didn't have really a name yet. And one day a girl came in, and I was 30, she was around 25, and she came in, she was an Iranian girl, and she's like, Dr. Amani, I feel so old. And I was just like, and she's like, yeah, I feel so old. I have pain in my back. I have trouble sleeping. I have anxiety. I feel like I'm really old. And I thought to myself, my God, how is it that a 25-year-old can come in and feel old? And I had been taught at that point in time to say to her, okay, no problem. Here's something for your back pain. Here's something for your anxiety. here's something for your insomnia. And if I had done that, I would have done the biggest harm to her, actually, because I would have told her that you're broken, there's something wrong with you, and that I, the almighty physician who's been trained and educated, is now going to help you. And I would have put her on a very, very wrong path, actually. So what I did instead was I said to her, do you want to try this exercise program that we have? And, I think it can help you. And I'd already started seeing the impact on the patients. And she did. And she went through the program and she did it again because she had seen the improvement. And the same girl who was pretty down and out, she looked old. She was only 25. She looked old, no energy, just really no spirit within her at such a young age, completely transformed her demeanor, her way of being, the energy about her, the sparkle about her. And after one of those visits where pretty much I would say the transformation had been complete with her because she was young and, she didn't have that many problems. So, her transformation time is shorter than obviously someone who's lived an unhealthy life for like 50, 60, 70 years. She left the office and was like a completely now different person from when I had seen her before the exercise prescription program and now at that visit. And I came outside to my secretaries at the time and I was just like, oh my God. And they were like, oh my God, we can't even believe this is the same person. And then I was like, yeah, it's like as if, and that's when the name of the program came to me I was like, it's as if, her real self is now coming through. And that's when the genesis of our program, The Real You, which I will share with you over the time ahead that we have together. That's the genesis of the term, The Real You, came out, was that there is our higher self within each of us. And this has been written about in all cultures and in all spiritual writings and all religious writings. It's that higher self. It's the Atman. It's the true self. And that real her had come out with something very, very minor. And that real person, that higher self within each of us, is whole, is healthy, is peaceful, is happy, is joyful. That real you within every living person is the truth of who we are. And at that point in time in my life, I hadn't even seen that in myself yet. I didn't know who my real you was. But I saw that just this exercise prescription program, what an impact it had had on my own health, where I was feeling more energy. It helped me with my postpartum blues. It helped me with my back pain, with my weight gain, with me managing the stress of being a new, mom, running a full-time practice, running the business of the practice. And it also showed me the power within transforming other people's lives. And so with that exercise part, then, the journey will continue where then I learned about nutrition and then I learned about, and my own healing journey paralleled the program, the Real You program. So first it started as the Real You exercise program because that's all I learned about, the power. And so that's what I called it. And then when I learned about nutrition, I added a nutrition in there. And then when I learned about the power of the mind and mind training, I added mind training in there. And then when I learned about the power of the yoga, I added yoga in there. And then when I learned about the power of mindfulness and meditation, I added mindfulness meditation in there. And then incorporated the knowledge and the expertise of, a team of healthcare professionals and practitioners where, I was asked to develop the wellness program for the police force in Ottawa here in Canada, which we will come back to. So let me just go back again to the time in the Toronto clinic. So when I learned about the power of exercise, I was just like, wait a minute, I'm not going to quit medicine, but why hadn't I been taught this at U of T Med School? Why didn't I learn? So I started pouring through all the medical literature around the role of exercise in health and well-being in medicine in all the different systems. So in the respiratory system and cardiovascular, endocrine, musculoskeletal, right? Because I was seeing this. I was seeing stuff in my patients in these areas, but I was like, how come I didn't even have an hour of the role of exercise and movement in med school? 4 years of med school, 2 years of residency. I didn't learn even 1 hour about the power of exercise. And yet I was seeing the impact in all these different things. I was like, how could that be? So I started pouring through everything, textbooks on exercise prescription, the role in, blood pressure, role in cardiovascular disease, role in diabetes, cholesterol, role in, cancer, role in mental health, because I had seen the effect in my own mental health and in my patients' mental health, role in everything, musculoskeletal. And I was blown away. I was like, okay, at the end of the papers, so, studying through the literature, papers, I was blown away. They would talk about the exercise, but they would be, at the end of the paper, it'd be like, nope. But even though the exercise we know can work, it's not the first line of treatment because doctors aren't paid to do it. They're not taught about exercise, and patients won't listen to them anyway. And I was like, wait a minute. Why is that? Those aren't real barriers. First of all, we should be taught about the role of exercise. So even though they were saying that's a barrier, I was like, well, that's just because it's wrong. We should be taught. Second of all, we should be paid. We should be paid to do it. And I was not paid to do it, and I lost quite a bit of money for many, many years until the police force in Ottawa and the city of Ottawa, great thanks to them, brought us on to do the program for the police force. And that was like almost 11 years into my journey in doing this work. And then I was like, and this is just in the Toronto clinic, I was like, well, my patients are all listening. And they're not only not all listening, they're so grateful, because when they were learning how to move and how to exercise with my direction and the personal trainer, they were recovering themselves from all these different conditions and now no longer needed to see me. So the same patient who was seeing me, I would call them frequent flyers, were coming and seeing me once every month, once every 2 months. With just this exercise prescription program, now their frequency of visits to me were down and they were feeling better. The infections that they were getting, like people who were getting recurrent and frequent colds or flus, were down. People who come in, we know as physicians, many people know this, people were just coming in because they were just not feeling great and they were stressed out and they were just needed someone to talk to. Those visits were going down. And I'm like, of course they're listening. And they're not only not listening, but they were so happy and so grateful. The biggest gratitude came to me from that. Thank you that you took the time to explain to me how to move, how to exercise, how to move my body to keep myself healthy and to myself recover from symptoms of disease. So my mission became, that 2003 is when the Real You program started, the exercise prescription program part of it started. My mission became that I wasn't going to quit medicine, that I was in the right field and I was going to do it, but I was going to learn about how to really help heal myself and actually be a guide to healing my patients in a real way through lifestyle change, through exercise, through food, through the power of the mind. So let's fast forward then to me moving to Ottawa. So even though I had now, great results, I full force going in now, incorporating nutrition, changing my own diet, reading a lot about nutrition, working with naturopaths. I started seeing dietitians myself, learning about the power of food. Started educating my patients on, Iranian diet. I remember a guy had come in, his cholesterol was really, really high, and he was in his 40s, and he was a truck driver. And so we're taught in medicine to use fear as motivation. And this was a lesson that fear does not work as motivation. So I'm sitting in there, he's high cholesterol, he's borderline diabetic. And he comes in, he's a funny guy, and I'm asking him about his diet. And so he was literally having like bread 3 times a day, and he was having rice. And so he would be putting rice within the bread for lunchtime with the shish kebabs, 4 or 5 times a week. And I was trying to really nicely say to him, this is not a good diet, and try to get him to eat not a Persian diet, because you can't change people's, but a healthier Persian diet. And so Iranian diet. And I remember he wasn't listening to me. So I had to one day say to him on one of my counseling sessions for the diet, I was like, you're gonna die. You're gonna die of a heart attack or a stroke. And that's going to be the end of you if you don't fix this. And I'm going to have to put you on tons of medication. And he looked at me and he's like, good riddance. I want to die, because he had such a hard life, right? And he was like, yeah, I'm ready to go, doc. Good riddance. And then I was just like, oh my God, that didn't work. So then I thought, okay, well, fear, right? Motivation through fear, because that's what we're taught everywhere in the world, motivate people through fear. I was like, let's up the ante. Okay, you're not gonna die. You're gonna have a heart attack. You're gonna have a stroke, I said to him. And so I'm trying to up the ante as we speak right in front of him. Half your body's gonna be paralyzed. And then what are you gonna do? And I said, and you won't die. And then he looked at me and he's like, he was just like, nothing. Right? It didn't work. So I learned at that time that through actually the education and the training I was giving to the patients that were listening, that didn't have that barrier, right? Of feeling that their life didn't matter. I learned at that time from their transformations where the person was coming in tired, down on themselves, low self-esteem, and then was leaving, having lost 30, 40 pounds, stopped their medication, higher self-esteem, feeling better, energetic, that the real you, which is within each of us, that powerful self, that divine self, which is in each of us, that's the motivation to use as a physician in our society, that if we created systems, my journey is within the healthcare system, the disease care system, which is going to be a healthcare system soon. But we can do that in education, we can do that in politics. If we focus on the potential within each person, we can really bring out the best in everybody, and that person exists. But we have to recognize that we need an environment. We have to be doing that work ourselves. So if I had accepted my first depression in med school as a sign that I was broken and that I was going to be doomed to be depressed for the rest of my life and be on medication for the rest of my life. And then that would have been, cemented through my experience with my postpartum blues and not believed in my higher self, in my higher potential, we would have had a very, very different journey. We wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have done our program with the cops. We wouldn't have, and civilians, we wouldn't have had the amazing testimony that I will be sharing with you in the days ahead about how powerful this is to transform not only the healthcare system, but all the different parts of our society and our world, actually, this approach. So that would have been, so if I hadn't gone on the true healing journey myself, we wouldn't be here. And so I realized that the way to motivate people is to give them this message, which I want every one of you to know right now, because this is a very, very important time in history, is that real you, that higher self exists within each of us. And taking care of yourself, taking care of your exercise, taking care of your movement, your diet is the path to it. And we want to motivate everybody because we want to see the potential within each living being by giving that right support, that right education, that right environment. So when I was in Ottawa, I was like, okay, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to get this program out there? Because I'm a family doctor seeing patients every day. And, OHIP, our provincial system in Ontario where we are, doesn't cover really me spending all this time with patients, educating them. What are we going to do? And everyone kept telling me, quit, give it up. You're never going to be paid to do this. It's not going to work. But I was like, okay, well, we've addressed the 3 barriers. Remember, the 3 barriers in the literature was that doctors aren't trained to do it. I was self-training now myself. First I started with exercise, then it was nutrition, and then I started seeing counselors and psychologists myself again with my own healing journey, and then started researching the power of the mind. And as I was seeing my own health transform, which I will share later with you, all the major transformations in my own health, I was like, well, well, I'm now training myself to do it. And I was using that on my patients and it was working. And then patients were listening to me and I was like, this barrier of not paid to do it, it's okay. I'm not starving as a physician, right? I was still making a living. I wasn't making as much as my colleagues were, but that's not why I went to medicine anyway. I was like, I'm doing this and we will have the light of day where some support will come. But I can tell you it was very, very tough because here I was, I remember, doing the education in the clinic, spending half an hour, 45 minutes and not being compensated whatsoever. So I had to figure out how else am I going to be able to be supported to do this. So one day in my family practice here in Ottawa, I started getting a lot of people coming in to see me from other physicians, from other practices to just do the Real You program. And at that time, it was basically, I was teaching them how to exercise through the help of a physiotherapist. We were teaching them just the basics of resistance training, cardiovascular training, and stretching, and then not charging anything for it. So if they had insurance, they would be covered. And if they didn't have insurance, they would only have to pay the cost of the personal trainer, which was at $25 an hour. I wasn't taking any part of it because I was committed from day one to bring this program to the masses at minimal to no cost. Because by this time I had learned, this time it was now around 2006, 2007. I'd been on this journey for about 3 years. And I had learned that Canada alone, in the States, it's in the trillions, all over the world, it's in the hundreds of trillions, but Canada alone spends $200 billion a year in the medical treatment alone of disease. $200 billion a year. And I'd also learned by this time in doing the research on the role of exercise and nutrition in medicine that 80% of those chronic diseases is preventable. So let me say that again. In Canada, we spend generally $200 billion a year in the medical treatment of disease, and 80% of those diseases are preventable through lifestyle change. So I was like, if we're burning through this money without a care in the world every year, I'm not going to now start charging patients to come and access a program like this because they're rich and the people who have money are already accessing the best personal trainers, the best dietitians, nutritionists, and have healthier lives. So my mission became how do I deliver this program to people at minimal to no cost, because we already have the money, but we're just not using the money in the right way. So as I was doing this in my family practice in Ottawa, one day a woman came through because we were having people come from because the people were losing a lot of weight. They were coming off of medications for their blood pressure. They were coming off medications for anxiety, for sleep, medications for their pain. One woman came through and she had okay results. She wasn't one of the super amazing results. She lost about 12 pounds and her blood pressure, came down, and she had more energy and her skin looked younger. And that's the other benefit, is that you look, 10 to 20 years younger when you take care of yourself. And she let me know that she was the head of health, lifestyle, and safety at the police force in Ottawa, and whether I was interested to meet with the chief of the police force, Vern White, who's now a senator in Ottawa, as he was looking now, this is around in 2006, 2007, as she had been sent out as a secret shopper. I didn't know who she was when she started the program, to find the best program to bring to the police force in Ottawa. And that I interested in meeting with the chief of police force to talk about the Real You program, which at that time was a 10-week program. And I was like, yep, yes, I am. I am very interested in meeting with him, because until this point in time, I had gone into really pretty top positions in physical activity promotion. I was with the Canadian College of Family Physicians. I was a champion for physical activity promotion in Ontario. There's a doctor for each province. I had met with senators in Toronto. I had met with MPPs about the program, about getting funding for the program, and nobody had been interested. And this was the first time that there was a chance that I could be funded and supported without having to lose money to be able to bring this program to a greater audience. And at that point in time, I had been wearing the hat of the nutritional, teaching people about nutrition through just, my general practice, and the billing that's very restricted. I was teaching them about the power of the mind, or sending them, people who were really stressed out, and needed the intervention, to psychologists. And I basically had my main person that I was working from the outside was with the physiotherapist teaching the education, on exercise prescription. So basically, I met with the chief of police force at the time, and he said to me, we want to do a pilot on your program. And I said, yes, let's do it. So we did a pilot for 25 members of the police force, exactly the program that I was offering in my family practice and for the public, at no cost. And based on the results of that, we had 25 members of the police force at that time do that pilot. He came back and he said, let's do another pilot. This time I was tasked to, with a person in nutrition, a holistic nutritionist and a physiotherapist, do workshops for the communications department in the police force. And based on the results of that, I was then asked in around 2008 to create my dream program for 100 members of the Ottawa Police Force, to see if we can make the police, if we can make them healthier. And that was 2008, and about 2.5 years later of running around the city, meeting with people in the police force, meeting with people in the city, to be able to get the proper funding, to set out the details, we got approval in the winter of 2010 to do our first pilot for 100 members in 2011 of February, for 100 members of the police force for the Real You, where I would now get to do my dream program, because I was going to get funding to do that. Minimal funding at the time, mind you, because I had to just put the basic funding down requirement there to just get us in as a one shot. But in any way, we were getting funding, and that's when I brought on a team of physiotherapists to do exercise prescription for our cops and civilians, naturopaths to help with the nutritional education, a psychologist to help with their psychological wellness, and then myself being at the center of prescribing this team to this first 100 pilot participants. So obviously this was an opportunity of a lifetime to be able to get approval after 2.5 years of running around the city, working pro bono to try to get approval for the funding for this pilot. And I didn't want to leave my work in family practice, but I also knew that the way that I was practicing was not the way that family practice is set up, or the healthcare disease care system is set up. That was not what I wanted. I knew that there was a better way, and this was my opportunity. So in January of 2011, I had about 1,000 patients in my family practice. I transferred them to another physician, and I left my practice after almost 11 years to pursue this dream, which is bringing real medicine through lifestyle education and coaching to the police force. Now was what I was being asked to do, for 100 people for a 1-year pilot. My contract was only 1 year. Now I have to tell you something I couldn't understand, because I never knew anything about police officers. And actually what I did know was all wrong. And it was basically the idea, the ignorance really, that police officers aren't really smart. This is my ignorance, okay? This is before the program. That they're tough, that they're rough, and I feared them. I have to tell you, I've been as honest as you can pretty much get my whole life. But yet every time a police car would pass by me, I didn't understand why I would have this fear. And I was like in my late 20s, 30s. I was like, why do I have a fear every time a cop car passes by me? And this is an important point that I'm going to make right now, is that fear is our worst enemy. So I had fear about our cops. because I didn't know anything. I was very ignorant. And what I did know, I thought I knew, was also the wrong information, in the fact that I thought of them as just, tough, rough guys and women. So I was kind of curious. I was like, okay, universe, God, why did you choose the police force? But I wasn't going to say no. And when I met with the chief of police at the time, very, very, very visionary man, Vern White, dedicated to helping humanity. His mission was, he sat me down at our first meeting and he said, I want the healthiest police force in Canada. And I told him the truth, which was, I don't really have a thing with cops, really. I will help your cops, but I want this program to be available to the public. And he was like, well, I don't really care about the thing of, he didn't really say this, but the message was there. I really want the healthiest cops because my cops are dying early. Generally the life expectancy of police officers is 10 to 15 years less than the average population. And I was like, yeah, okay, I hear you. I'll help you. But I want this to be the way that we can get this program out to the public. The good news is that both of us won, and we will be sharing. I will be sharing that with you in the days ahead. We did get, I believe, the healthiest police force in not only Canada but in the world, because our program has now been studied and has been researched, and I've presented on the Ottawa, the Real You Ottawa Wellness Program to police forces around Canada. To OPP, our CMP, our federal and our provincial police bodies, and to actually international police forces. And there's really no program like this for wellness in any police force or military that we know of in the world. And I can say that to you confidently. And our work with the police force that we've done since 2011 has now allowed us to bring it this type of real healthcare to the masses. And so I just do want to say gratitude and a shout out to Senator Vern White and to the city of Ottawa and to everybody at the Ottawa Police Force, all the amazing people who have helped bring us to this point in where we can share the incredible success story that we've had with everyone around the world. So February, we launched this program, and I have now a team of psychologists, naturopath, physiotherapists. Had to develop a curriculum of education that we put everyone through. They come and see me as the doctor. I do a comprehensive assessment, all whole lifestyle assessment, medical wellness assessment. And we have these great, amazing cops and civilians, about 70 cops and 30 civilians. And we're delivering this program, and people are coming in from all risk factors. So we had people who were really, really healthy during the program. We had people who, moderate number of them, about 50% were kind of moderate risk for disease and had a number of conditions and were on medications. And then we had about 20 to 30% of people who were very, very sick. Like high risk for disease, number of illnesses, number of medications. And we did that so that we could actually take a sampling of the actual, what exists out in the public, right? And to show the power of this approach for everybody, not just really sick people, but, moderately sick people and pretty healthy people, and what outcomes can we see? And hopefully we've had quite a bit of this data and the impacts analyzed and reported, but we'll have more of that shared in print format in the future. So within 6 months, we were seeing unbelievable results. So one case that I have to share, which is incredible, is a gentleman who is in his 50s, and he came in with diabetes, and he was waiting to see an endocrinologist to go on insulin because his diabetes was really poorly controlled. And he was on a wait list for that. And he started the program, and his hemoglobin A1C was around 13, which is really, really high. And typically at that point in time, we put people on insulin. And I had already been in practice, if you remember, since 2000, and this was in 2011, so I had about 11 years. And even with patients going on insulin, I hadn't seen what I'm about just to tell you, which was within 3 months of the program, and this is just lifestyle intervention of education of nutrition, exercise, and mind training. This we do lab work on everybody at the beginning. We do lab work at 3 months. And that program, that initial program was about 15 months long. Within 3 months of the program, of the Really program, this gentleman's hemoglobin A1C had gone down from 13, like a 0.130, down to a 7.5. And I was just beyond belief. I couldn't even believe the number. His family doctor couldn't believe the number. He was waiting to go and see an endocrinologist. I called one of my top endocrinologists in Canada. She's a colleague of mine. I called her up and I said, I haven't seen hemoglobin A1Cs come down like this with insulin. Have you seen such a thing? She's like, no, I have not seen such a reduction so quickly. And that's when we started, and that's just on the endocrine side, on the blood sugar side. But then we saw similarly with, people with pain. We saw similarly with people with their blood pressure. So some of the similar things that we had seen when it was just an exercise prescription, but now was like at a whole level that I hadn't even expected, because I had a team, right? I had an expert in nutrition. I had an expert in psychology. I had an expert in physiotherapy. And then I was able to be free to organize these people and to really wrap this around. People who are doing the program, this pilot program, were not used to having their healthcare approached this way, where they were not used to the knowledge that they're in the driver's seat, they're in the power. And one day, one of the cops, who actually was up here, he was quite healthy, quite well, he came in, and I didn't think we had much of an impact on him, but it was around the 6-month mark. He came in and he was like full of tears. He was a tough, really, strong, healthy, resilient man. And he was just like full of tears. And he was just like, I really want to thank you. I don't even know what to say. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, my friends and I, my colleagues and I, we're just beyond grateful for what you're doing. We've been used to, this is what he said. He said, we've been used to dedicating our lives, sacrificing our lives to care for other people because that's the right thing to do. But we have never, and he said him and a bunch, and I think 2 of his colleagues were in the program at the time. He's like, but we have never felt that care and that sacrifice from anyone before. And we're feeling it from you and your team. And for that, I want to thank you. And he had tears in his eyes. And that's when I had the idea that one day we will make a Netflix movie series, something about this. That's the first thought that I had, because it was just like, I was blown away. But it goes to show you, he wasn't somebody who was sick who came in. He was already pretty healthy. He just wanted to tweak, in the different areas. He was very proactive. He was very, very resilient. He was already a very positive. I can't even remember right now, to be honest with you, what outcome he had from the program. And I remember even feeling that when he was saying this to me, because I was just like, how have we helped you? I don't even know how we've helped you. But what was really important to me was the secret that everyone has asked me, because of our amazing results, which we'll share with you one by one, and the speakers who will come in, some of them will be from the program, will come and share this with you actually personally, their transformations and their outcome. It went to show you the reason I'm here today and the reason that we've had the success is this gentleman was talking about the secret of healthcare and transformation, which is love and care. So if anyone were to ever ask me, what is the secret of the impact that you've been able to have with your team and our members of our team have had, the members of the team or any person in any field, you want to have an impact, whatever you're doing, whether you're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're a police officer, whatever you're doing, it's just love and care. And that was the outcome. It was love and care for them. And when you love and care for other people, they feel that love and care for themselves. And then they take that ownership of their own health and well-being into their hands. And that's what we were seeing. So within that 6-7 months, I had Chief White come to me and say, Neda, we want you to double up the numbers, because we were for 100. We're going to sign up for 200 a year for the next 3 years. And what are you doing? People are bombarding my office, coming and knocking on the door saying, this program's like transformed their health, is transforming their life. You know, their kids are benefiting, their wives, their husbands are benefiting. What are you doing with these people? I was like being completely mind blown by the results. And that's when then the discussions started to come for us to be there for longer. And we got renewed, and we've been evaluated. Our program was evaluated over 3 years by an external evaluation company. And we have now over 800 amazing transformation stories, which I hope are going to be a testament, because they've taught me so much about the power of the human spirit, actually, the power that each of us have that we're not even aware of. I hope that these stories and what we've learned is going to be a testament to every single person out there at this time, to take your health into your own hands. We'll guide you the way, and we'll connect you with other people out there doing amazing work to guide you along the way. And that you doing that is going to have an amazing positive impact on the world, in terms of bringing greater peace, love, joy, and health, and justice to everybody. And we know how important that is right now. Let me tell you one other thing, is that I'm a learner, and I'm going to be sharing all this with you as a person still on my healing journey, because our healing journeys never end. And although I've healed quite a bit, I'm not even the same person that I was a year ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago. I'm happy to tell you that I can actually sit now. I can relax now. I live a very balanced life now. I'm still on a healing journey. We will always be healing in different ways. But that it's an exchange that's happening. So when we are going to be having these conversations with people that are going to be coming on with each other, it's always knowing that whatever we are giving, we are always also receiving. So I want to also take this chance to thank the amazing cops and civilians and my patients the past 20 years who've taught me so much about health, about well-being. Health is not just physical health. I've learned that health is physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual, and there's a whole thing in the middle that I'll call right now energetic, but it comprises of all these things. And so we're going to be sharing with you what I know today, what our guests know at this point in time, of how to explore your own health and well-being in all these ways, in the physical, in the mental, and the emotional, and the spiritual, and the energetic, and it's an always dance in between all of them. Don't judge yourself where you're at. Don't lead by your physical eyes and what your state is at right now, because no matter how bad your state is, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, as long as you know that you have the power to get better, to feel better, and to use that healing journey to make the world a better place, you will. And I hope we're with you along the way.